Hi, my name's Maddie and this is the upper key stage 2 version of the reading clips. Lots of the schools who I work with have been asking just for a quick update on some of the resources or strategies for teaching comprehension that they can perhaps send home to parents, and hopefully some parents are watching this too. So it's just a brief video. It's not going to be a lengthy CPD tool, but it hopefully will give a bit of a recap for those of you who've been on training with me before, or a bit of an overview for any new people who have tuned in. So what I would just like to make really clear is that this is just a strategy that we can use to teach comprehension skills in upper key stage 2. I have done separate ones for key stage 1 and lower key stage 2. They all have the same message, because I'm a great believer that for reading to really work, it's got to be consistent throughout the age group, from our youngest early years readers through to our year 6s. So the same messages in all, but a different resource for each year group, which hopefully I'm going to upload to the YouTube clip. So in terms of key stage 2 reading, it's so important that those children can really read and not just read. We don't just want children who can bark out a chapter from a novel but not have any comprehension skills to talk about what they've read, or the impact of a word, or why an author used a specific device to be able to move the action on. And we want the children to really be analytical in their reading, and that means nailing comprehension. So in terms of key stage 2 content domains, I'm just going to focus on the first 5 in this clip, and in the others I've put a circle around 1C or 2C because I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about that one. So we've got our vocabulary, our retrieval. Retrieval questions traditionally seen as an easy way of finding the answer right there, but the past few years reading papers for key stage 2, 1 and 2 SATs have kind of highlighted the difficulty in some of our retrieval questions, and some of our most able readers not getting the retrieval questions right on the easier extracts. So this isn't all about SATs and test technique, but what we're saying is, have they got a breadth of ability to be able to have that agility to move from a comprehension question to a vocab question to an inference to a retrieval. So it's about, can they spin all of the reading skill plates. Summary. I said I was going to talk a little bit about summary. It doesn't feature as high on the key stage 2 proportion of questions in the SATs. So when we do an implications for teaching report, summary and sequencing at key stage 1 don't really hit the top mark. It's normally the vocab, the inference and the retrieval that are taking the higher proportion of marks. And sometimes summary perhaps doesn't have the same amount of time dedicated to the teaching of the skill. I wrote an article a few years ago about 2C and 1C being the lost content domains, and basically about that, do the children understand the gist of what they're reading? So as they're reading, are they summarising and internalising and thinking, oh, I didn't think that character would do that, or I'm surprised that that happens in that part of the world, or that's an interesting fact that I didn't know about the Romans. You know, are they doing that verbal kind of mental, I call it like a commentary, like a MasterChef voiceover, because we can't do that for them. We can model it, but when they're reading on their own independently, have they got those strategies built in to be able to internalise the text? And that's summary. And once a child is doing that fluently, the inference and the retrieval are easier for them. Not easy, easier. And then we've got our prediction based on what's been stated or implied, which is often tricky for our key stage 1 and 2 readers. So what I wanted to talk about was one of the vehicles that I use to teach the skills of comprehension. I know some of you have been on training before, have written your own versions of these with me and back at your schools. And there are lots of different acronyms out there for teaching reading skills, and I'm not saying that that they can't all be used together, because they can. So this is just one of them that I worked on with a colleague, and basically just follows through the comprehension skills, and then the language skills, which is our vocabulary, inference having its own strand, meanings, basically that is our, that is our 2C. And then this was books, because I couldn't think of a word with clim, so I just added books on the end, so don't worry too much. And we've got 2A here for our language, we've got 2B for our retrieval here and our inference, and then 2D for our 2B for retrieval and prediction, 2D being inference, and then we can add the other content domains in later. So one of the resources that I'll upload to the channel is the content domain question chart, so that teachers and parents, whoever's at home, can have a little look down and see what different types of questions you can talk about. There's not a great need to record the answers written. You know, there's something great about being able to say, what would you write? Not what will you write, but what would you write for that answer? And maybe even parents saying, look, I'll write the answer, you tell me what to write, because that's quite hard. Lots of children know the answer to say, but they're not sure how to transfer that down in the written form, and they sometimes lose their meaning and sense once it comes to recording it. But there's no harm in the adult saying, you tell me what to write and I'll write the answer. Does it look okay? And then perhaps reworking the words. So I'll upload that. And the other two resources I'm going to upload are some climbs. For year 5, I'm going to upload some song lyrics that follow the comprehension, language, inference, meanings and B for books, which is sometimes a literal question or sometimes a grammar focus. This is based on Labyrinth's lyrics to Jealous. I'll just give you a little bit of an example of the language question, because I did this as a live guided read not that long ago. And my question was, which of these could be an alternative title for this song, and give your reason. And I gave them a multiple choice of envy, green-eyed monster, heartbreak and disillusioned. Now all of them would work for the lyrics to Jealous, as long as you can justify it. And that's massive, isn't it, in reading, that they can justify their reason. And it was really interesting because one of the children said, B is ridiculous, because why would a green-eyed monster be a replacement title for the song called Jealous? And that was a great opportunity to talk to them about. And that was a great opportunity to actually have that conversation with the children about how green-eyed monster is actually related to Jealous. And it was really interesting for them, and they loved it. And I didn't feel like I was preaching or chalk and talk. It was a really, really interesting conversation with a bit of investigation going on, where we tried to think of perhaps some other phrases or idioms that we could have a little look at. And the other resource that I'm going to share is the year 6. Something similar. It follows the same format of climb of the 5 questions. So have they got that agility to move from one reading skill to another? But these are based on the lyrics to the songs from Mary Poppins, the first film. And what they do have is a little setting box at the top, kind of just mirroring that Key Stage 2, Key Stage 1 test technique, where they need to read that information box, and if they did, they would have a greater chance of understanding what's coming. So I've put a little intro of what each song, so this one's Sister Suffragette, and it gives a little bit of background of what that song's about before the children move into the questions. Some of them have answer stems, so this one, explain how the impression of women has changed through these lyrics. People used to think that women, people now think that women. So giving the children a little bit of a scaffold to support their learning. So I'll upload the Mary Poppins lyrics and some of the song lyrics. Don't judge me on my song choices. I just picked songs that I thought would be interesting to discuss, and I'll upload those onto the YouTube if I can. And please, if you want to subscribe onto the YouTube channel, then you'll get alerts to when I send anything else. Thanks for watching.